travel and technology. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the stage Her Highness Vice Minister of Tourism of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Princess Haifa Al Saud. Welcome, the stage is yours.
So, welcome everyone. I am delighted to be here with you today. Thank you all so much for joining. Looking around the crowd, it warms my heart. I'm seeing former heads of state, the former president of Costa Rica, the former president of Indonesia, the former Secretary General of the UNFCCC, excellencies from around the world, and dear colleagues. Thank you for joining us here today in Next in Travel. We have an extremely exciting next session, and as much as I would like to spend much more time with you here on stage, I really want to give the space to the phenomenal speakers that we have to come up here and to share with you a taster of our up-and-coming events that we're going to be hosting as part of the Sustainable Tourism Global Center and as part of our efforts here at the Ministry of Tourism in Saudi Arabia. Today in Saudi, we are going from talking. We made commitments. We asked the world to challenge us during COP27. And today we are going to start walking the talk with you. So welcome to this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Highness, for opening the event there and for your remarks. The Next in Travel session has been opened, and therefore sharing your energy and your vision about the sector and, of course, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much. And yes, we have such an incredible lineup, and I will shortly be joined here on stage by President Felipe Calderón, the former president of Mexico, and also the new climate economy. Plus, we have Professor Jeffrey Sachs, a global climate champion and Columbia University professor, to discuss how we can inspire a sustainability revolution. I love that word, and I'm very pleased now to be joined on stage by both these gentlemen, President Calderón and Professor Sachs. Please join me on stage. It is fantastic to have both of you here. And wow, what a day it has been. And, you know, the title is Inspiring a Sustainability Revolution. And, of course, we have just had COP27. I'll go first to you, President Calderón. Is the revolution happening? Is a sustainability revolution happening?
Well, there are a lot of changes that are already happening, in particular in technology. For instance, when I was president, I tried to establish the first solar photovoltaic facility in Mexico. I was accused like naive, utopian, etc. And indeed, the price for energy was roughly like $400 per megawatt hour. And now the price is $18 or even less megawatt hour. So the cost of generating solar energy has decreased like more than 90% in 10 years or roughly more. So there is a lot of revolution in technology, and the same with wind energy, a lot of changes in terms of artificial intelligence in particular, more commitments, a lot of businesses actually committed and acting. But yes, the revolution in some sectors is happening, but we are far, far away from the point in which we should do. We are not making at this moment, we are not reaching the point of not overheat the Earth more than 1 point Celsius, and that's a very concerning point.
Are you concerned too, Professor Sachs? Is the revolution happening? COP27 just took place, a lot was pledged, but is it really, really, is there action after these pledges? I mean, sometimes, we were discussing there in the green room, so many COPs. What happens in them and after them? It sort of gets lost. I mean, I'm a news anchor. We suddenly then move on to the next big story and forget about what was discussed at COP or even the environment at all.
I'm going to start by bragging. He was my student.
Yeah, a very bad one, but anyway.
And what
I hope that you didn't remember that.
What a
anyway.
wonderful thing to make you proud. And President Calderon is really the paradigm of why we're having a revolution, why the change is happening. It's not easy to make these changes. And as we were discussing coming in 2009, which was COP15, we just had COP27. So this is the countdown, or the count up from the first conference, which was in 1995. In COP15 in Copenhagen, there were ideas we're going to have a big breakthrough, and it didn't happen. In fact, the meeting collapsed dreadfully. It was a kind of US-China showdown, actually, in 2009. And President Calderon was the chair of COP16, and he put it back on track. So a round of applause, first of all. No, it's
by my teacher.
It's literally the case, because he listened and he heard what the different governments were saying, and he found a way to get people back at the table. And this is really what is happening throughout all of this. Changing the core of the world economy, how the energy system works or how the food system works globally, is not an easy thing. We have 193 countries. We have 8 billion people as of last week. We have a lot of differences of opinion, a lot of different levels of understanding. We have young people here who know the most, and thank you to the students that are here. We have, and then we have some aged leaders in my country and elsewhere who don't quite get some of the things they need to be getting from this because they didn't learn it in school. And so changing the direction is really hard, but we need to, because everywhere there's climate disasters, period. This is every day now we're seeing this someplace in the world.
Absolutely.
And as President Calderon said, the way to make the change is getting better and better and better. So there's no excuse now that it's too costly, can't do it, no pathway, and so on. And the one thing that I would say of COP27, it was 2 different meetings in Sharm el-Sheikh a couple of weeks ago. One meeting was the governments negotiating, and they made a little bit of an advance. But outside the hall were thousands of people with solutions, really good stuff. And lots of businesses, and not just greenwashing. Actually, here's our technology, here's what we can do, here's our investments. Lots of civil society. It was really hard to be cynical there, actually, because there was so much solution in the atmosphere. Inside the negotiations, the governments are too slow, that's for sure. But in the actual change in the world, we have to do it, and it is happening.
That's great to hear that optimism. And a very quick question. Was President Calderon a good student?
I'm sorry, that's off the record, excuse me. No?
He passed.
Yeah, well, it's an achievement. Oh?
Obviously a superb one. He makes us so proud.
No,
Fantastic.
I'm proud of you, Professor.
Fantastic. And I just want to discuss something that was said here by the former Secretary General Ban Ki-moon earlier, yesterday. He said that there was no way that the 2030 goals will be implemented the 17 SDGs will be implemented by 2030. And I want to come back to you on this, Jeffrey. I know you work closely with Ban Ki-moon on this, but when you hear that, are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? Or do you think, come on, no, we're going to find a way?
What I have learned in life is you need to be realistic. So in the sense that we cannot ignore reality, but we cannot allow to be defeated by the lack of hope. It is clear that we are out of track completely. I mean, if we continue this track, if you continue this trend, we will be far away from the goal. We will be roughly, maybe, Professor, 2.5 or more than 3 Celsius degrees. And that implies incredible rise sea levels. We are seeing catastrophes everywhere related with extreme weather. You can see what is happening in Pakistan. Heat waves, for instance, in Europe, in America, everywhere. You know how many people died in 2019 by heat waves? 359,000. 359,000 people died by heat waves, and we are worsening the situation. So definitely I agree with Ban Ki-moon that we are out of track, but we need to fight to move the world to get on track again. And one of the goals we have in Sustainable Tourism Global Center that we are creating with the support of several countries, mainly with the support of Saudi Arabian government, is how we can push the travel and tourism sector to reach the goal. How we can do that travel and tourism could reach to get net zero carbon at 2050 and even before. And if we got to do that, we can think that there is hope. And the other side is, regardless that we are out of that we need to push and push and push. I believe that technology, for instance, I believe at least in 2 factors that give me some hope. One is technology, we were mentioning before. So the human capacity to create a vaccine for COVID, for instance, in less than 2 years, absolutely is able to create technological solution to advance. And I believe that we continue pushing, I believe the solution are going to come to our encounter. And the second and most powerful reason is the new generations of human beings, the youth people, are absolutely convinced and committed about the necessity to be human with creation, human with nature, and also to tackle climate change and to build a better world. And those youths in democracy, for instance, are going to be voting, are going to be electing representatives that can change the equation. By now, my generation and older, unfortunately, are looking for any kind of excuses to take responsibility. So, yes, I believe that we are on track. Professor Sachs was the secret weapon, the intelligence behind SDGs, as a special advisor of Ban Ki-moon. And some friends, President Bambanji Doyomo was in the executive committee of that as well. He present. But I believe we need to fight. We have the way. We in the Sustainable Tourism Global Center, we released today a report, Better Travel and Tourism, Better World. And we are showing a potential path in order to reduce, not to increase 20% the emissions by 2030, which is the inertial path, but to reduce 40% now to 2030 the emissions in the sector. And there are ways to do that. We can talk about that later, but
when
it's
I hear
possible.
you speak, I hear hope, and it is fantastic, that momentum from COVID, from getting a vaccine for the world. I mean, a year ago, this would not have been possible. I mean, let's not forget, right? And when the world really does come together, we can do something. Why doesn't that happen for climate change? Why? That urgency, and going back to what Ban Ki-moon said about the 2030 goals, can we get that momentum, that urgency that the world is able to pull together to really achieve that? And also, what do you make of that comment? Since you were one of the brains behind it.
Well, first we should remember what are the goals. The goals are climate change, for sure, SDG 13, and the energy transformation, which is SDG 7. But there are also broad objectives to end poverty and hunger, to have fairer societies. So the idea is this broad concept of sustainable development. It's a hard concept. It's a hard thing to change course, as I was saying, just about climate, but now we're talking about something even broader. How our societies operate, how we respect and give help and hope to marginalized groups, how we move to gender equality, to women's empowerment, how we do things that have been difficult in the past. And the reason these goals were adopted is that the world needs a change of direction. So the idea of these goals was not that we're standing as these countries' governments were in 2015 and fixing the dotted line up to 2030 and said, here's where we can be in 2030. That was not the point. Right. The point was to say we need a very different direction in this world, because the direction we're on is going to wreck the planet and leave billions of people behind. So there was an idealism, an aspiration level to these goals that made them hard to begin with. But for me, the hardest part is how big powers keep getting distracted, because they make a big difference, the big powers in this world. Right now, they're at war. Yep. They're not at peace.
And these are big distractions.
This is horrible. So of course, wars are awful and tragic, but I resent them also because they're taking the world's attention away and energy away and political capital away and finance away from what we should be doing. The truth is, here's the deep truth. The war in Ukraine could have been averted had President Biden and President Putin negotiated seriously in 2021. This is...
Wow, there's a headline.
This is... And in fact, the terms were clear. I'm quite deeply involved in that part of the world. I spoke to the White House at the end of 2021 about how that war could be averted. They didn't want to listen. That was a terrible mistake. I'll tell you, today this war could be ended if President Biden and President Putin sit down and talk to each other. But when the Indonesian government, as president of the G20, tried to bring the two together in Bali, President Biden said, no, I'm not going to meet with him. This idea is the wrong approach in the world, because we're not going to solve problems unless we're talking with each other and respecting each other. And this is true of the US and China, because, again, the US has this idea, China's dangerous. Wrong idea. China is successful. It's not dangerous. And so we need lots of dialogue. We need lots of understanding. And if I could link it together with inspiring a sustainability revolution, there is nothing more inspiring, and Ed Norton said it beautifully in his session earlier, than meeting other people in other places, in other faiths, religions, race, geographies. That's how you realize they're not dangerous. They've got the same problems I've got. They're wonderful. They eat different food, which I like to try, but otherwise, we're in the same situation. And for me, just to put it in a personal level, I started visiting China 41 years ago as an assistant professor, and I've been many times a year, every year since then, basically, with a couple of years exception and the difficulties of the pandemic years. I know they're not dangerous. They're my students in senior positions. This is people that we've been dealing with for decades. But in the US, Congress, people who don't even have a passport, they seem to know everything about China.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. Yeah.
And so this is where tourism can really come in. because I want to just add one part about the tourist sector, if I could, which is one part about sustainable tourism, of course, is that your operation should be sustainable, no doubt, and don't wreck the environment that you're showing to the world and do many things. But the other part about sustainable tourism is inspire the world. Yeah. Because the tourist sites this is our heart and our identity. Absolutely. And our way of understanding each other. And so this is really where tourism can, I think, change the world, not only by being green and clean itself, but by showing we're one world. Exactly. Come visit us. Come see us. Don't bomb us. Come have dinner with us. Right, this is a much better approach.
Good. Absolutely. And we have to keep speaking to each other. Thank you. We really have to keep speaking to each other. And you mentioned there, of course, that this war could have been averted. Fantastic point. I'm going to take my journalism hat off for a second and just continue on with the subject of sustainability. And, you know, as a former president, there are distractions. Of course, we're talking about, obviously, here the war in Ukraine. How do world leaders then still put and keep their attention and keep the climate change at the forefront of everything? Or is that impossible? And also, they've got economic growth, they've got poverty, inequality, domestic issues to tackle, but yet you've got the environment that can't wait, and it is more and more and every day on our doorstep.
Well, definitely we can say distractions, but we can try to find, in the middle of this disaster, in the middle of this mess, some kind of opportunities. For instance, it is terrible that, well, it's not terrible for Saudi Arabia, but it's terrible for a lot of countries. This price is related with oil and other fossil fuels. However, it could be an opportunity, an economic opportunity to accelerate the innovation in renewables and really to create an economic environment to accelerate the revolution in that part, which is crucial to get the transition towards a new climate economy and a sustainable world. And I know, honestly, there are a lot of politics, a lot of blah, blah, blah in conventions, in COPs, in summits, in G20.
Greta Thunberg, she uses that word, blah, 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 for
well, I chair the COP16, as Professor say, but also the G20 in Mexico. And honestly, you are seated, a lot of the speeches very well prepared for a wonderful staffs. But at the very end, you need to find a way in which you can connect with other leaders and try to understand what are his or her restrictions, his or her political restrictions, their interests. For instance, so we were talking before this a conversation in the green room about China was blamed about the failure of Copenhagen. And yes, I believe that part, that China was guilty about that. I went to talk with President Hu Jintao, and like, politely I claimed to him, well, what's happened with China? My friend is, say, no, we are absolutely committed with environment. We are the country that are producing the largest renewable energy in the world, are reforestating the largest number of hectares in the world, etc. And that was true. So what happened? We don't want to be supervised by some country, an imperialist country like the United States or the UK. So, okay, it looks like interesting. Well, what about if you are doing all these things? What if you commit yourself to put your own commitment in a table and say, yes, of course, we can commit to increase the renewable energy, to increase energy efficiency, etc. And that's the origin of NDCs, national determined commitments. Without an imperialist, that's the language in politics as well, they were able to commit themselves, and a lot of developing countries, by first time ever, put their commitments on the table, and that's the way in which we start to move the ball. And what is important, for China, for instance, I understood, the reputation is at the most. China praised a lot his own reputation globally. So regardless, was not a binding commitment, it was the expression at that time. Failing in their own words could imply a terrible cost for China. So you need to understand what are the incentives the interest behind every single will. For instance, this part about, I absolutely agree that all the discussions in Sharm el-Sheikh, I was there some days ago out well. Yes, it's of course a question of justice. Developing and poor countries did not pollute, and they deserve payments, repairing, loss, damages, and justice, fair transition, yes. But honestly, for a lot of countries with money or with power, developing countries, they say yes, but they are not going to act by generosity or by charity. I know that Professor Sachs, for instance, you are preparing, and I'm waiting for that, a research or a book about ethical on sustainability. And I believe a lot of us could be moved by ethical or high value motives. But pragmatically, for a lot of countries, for a lot of people, for a lot of businessmen, there are not such motives. So we need pragmatical incentives, and that is possible to build.
I love this subject. You know, okay, pragmatic incentives, and they make these pledges, and I sit there as a journalist. I watch these live broadcasts of these amazing pledges. We, ex-country, I'm the world leader. I'm pledging to be net zero by 2070. I'm not going to be alive. Even the person saying that is not going to be alive. Even if it's not 2070, it's somewhere nearer. Is there somewhere? I mean, you mentioned reputation there of China or any other country.
A lot of countries, by the way.
A lot of countries, to really name and shame or to police them. If you're a company, or I say, this is my pen, I'm going to make 10 of these pens by the next conference in pink. This is my plan, I'm going to get this supplier. I give you a plan, I will commit to this. How do we even track that? You know, even as journalists or even as the members of the public, these pledges that are huge pledges that are made and not delivered.
I'm going to give you an answer like a professor, because I really like these commitments to mid-century. And in the Paris negotiations, I was interested in one thing, and I helped to get one line in that agreement, which is Article 4.19, which says that countries should submit long-term low-emission development strategies. I wanted them to do homework. And what that means is if you make a pledge, then I want to see how you're going to achieve the pledge. Because to me, so much of what is involved in this is not even bad faith, but no knowledge of what to do exactly. This is complicated. So what I really want, and what I spend a lot of my time on, and Patricia Espinosa so wonderfully led the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change for so many years, the Secretariat, and has been pushing and reporting and getting countries to abide by these commitments. I want to see, okay, you say you're going to do it by such and such date. Yeah. What energy sources are you going to use? Show us the grid. Show us what it's going to look like, because it's not so far away. This is not the unforeseen future. By the time you're done building, it's going to be 2050. Absolutely. So you can actually write down a business plan. Not precisely, it's going to change, it's going to evolve, but you need to say how you're going to get there. The truth is, a lot of governments don't know how to do it. Many governments don't want to do it. Politicians, the last thing they want to show is a specific path. And so, to my mind, as I say, that's the homework assignment. Because if we could get that done, governments would look and say, you know, it's not so hard. Actually, that's quite interesting. I could make a lot of money on that.
Yeah, right.
And then one thing to watch, this is very true for Saudi Arabia, for example, very true for the Gulf. One solution for this region, for sure, is to be the superpower of solar and hydrogen. No question. But then that means negotiating with Europe. We want guarantees that your markets are open, that we're going to be able to export green electrons to you, that we're going to be able to export hydrogen. Europe's not doing that yet. So then you start getting serious. Here's our plan, but we need to negotiate with you. Are you serious? to let our clean energy, which will be the lowest cost in the world, power your economy. So this is where you get real by actually doing the homework. That's my feeling.
Absolutely. We have just over a minute to go, and I do ask for a tiny extension, if I may, for us. Just to say, of course, this is such an important sector, the tourism sector. What can they do to help achieve those goals, to really look after our planet?
Actually,
and I know you've got this fantastic center, the Sustainable Global Center.
Sustainable Tourism Global Center,
Very
we have a
briefly.
plan.
Oh,
We
I
are
like the plan.
developing punctual strategy, and let me go punctual with some suggestions. First, in order to reach net zero carbon in the sector by the middle of this century, we need to reach some milestone to 2030. So those milestones could be transport. Transport is responsible for 47% of the emissions. We need to be, in aviation, for instance, 15% on sustainable fuels. And that is absolutely possible by 2030. We need to decarbonize the fleet, for instance, for rental cars. So we need to have 85% of electric cars in the rental sector. Second point, facilities, hotel, restaurants, etc. We need to reduce, and it is possible to reduce, 50% of the emissions in the operational facilities. If we are able to change, for instance, the lamps using LEDs, if we are able to isolate perfectly the rooms, to retrofit the buildings, to use solar energy, not only we will reduce 50% the emissions, but also we can save a lot of money for operators, not only the big hotels, but especially SMEs, which are 80% of the sector. And it has a payback. It pays back by itself in roughly 5 to 7 years. We need to protect and restore the land, especially mangroves, land and ocean, and it is possible to do. 4, we need to reduce consumption and do it in a better way. The next time you go to a buffet, think about the food you are wasting. 30% of the food in the world is wasted, and 12% is only in hospitalities. So we need to reduce that part. And we need to serve the communities with point 5, and we'll end with that. Serving the communities imply all jobs in the sector needs to be formal by 2030. We need to protect nature heritage in those places, and we need to take care of the community. For instance, hospitalities and tourism travel sector could be responsible of garbage and water. So no one single kilo of garbage needs to be left in the community. You can recycle, you can treat the garbage, you can treat the water, and beyond that, you can serve the community, providing the knowledge, the human capacity that most of the mayors in the cities in the world, they have not it. So help the community, be responsible, decarbonize transport, decarbonize hospitality, protect and restore lands, and it is possible. We will do it if we have the support of the sector.
Fantastic. That is a great plan, a great message to end on. Thank you very much indeed. President Felipe Calderón, I'm going to give the last word to you, Professor Sachs. What can this industry really do with a plan that is
I agree with all of that, and I want to add one more bit of homework, of course.
We love homework.
Which is that I would like every hotel, every tour operator, every part of this industry to focus on the places that they are championing and to understand their importance, their history, their cultural importance, their natural environment, and the threats that they face. And the reason is that when we're talking about great tourist destinations, we are talking about our core values and our core culture. But people may not know the great history, what it represents, how fragile it is, how it's threatened by the current circumstances. And I think that the goal of protecting this heritage, which is at the core of our tourist industry, beautiful places, places of historical importance and cultural importance, the understanding of the protection of that will be a profound inspiration. That's inspiring the revolution.
Absolutely.
And if we can, when people arrive at a hotel room, if they can see a little bit, here's where you are and why you are here, remember, and here's the history, and here's the environment that you're going to see, I think will help everybody to understand how meaningful this agenda is and how really the cooperation is absolutely what we all need to achieve what we're aiming for.
Fantastic. Professor Sachs, thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, what an honor, what a fantastic conversation to hear from these two really inspiring gentlemen and minds on inspiring a sustainability revolution. President Felipe Calderón, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, thank you so much. Shukran jazilan. Thank you to all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Fantastic. No, thank you so much. Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias. We could have continued forever. Thank you. Okay. I will continue. You go right, I go left. Ladies and gentlemen, well, as you heard there, it is really clear, isn't it, that the world is facing a grave climate and biodiversity emergency. And in this context, tourism really is positioned to not only solve the existing problem, as we heard, but also to drive regenerative and positive progress on a global scale. Now, we have a very exciting next panel for you on how travel and tourism can really lead and accelerate the transition to net zero emissions, and we've just been talking about that, as well as also drive and protect nature and communities. And for that, I am delighted now to give the floor to Her Excellency Gloria Guevara and her esteemed panel to continue this important conversation. Thank you so much. See you later. Ilalika.
Okay. Thank you, Maria. What a wonderful panel. Let me ask my panelists to join me, and I'll introduce them right here. So in the benefit of the time, Laura Chinchilla, former president of Costa Rica, Susilo, former president of Indonesia, Paul Polman, former CEO of Unilever, and Patricia from UNFCCC. Please join me. I'm very humble, as you can see, with this group of experts. I'm so honored, but what a wonderful conversation we just had. Here. Yes, please. That was amazing, amazing, very interesting, that revolution. Now, with this group of experts, that, wow, is so much experience, so much to share, and we will try to cover really quick, so much to share. So let me just start really quick with the former president of Indonesia. I'm not going to read the bio because everyone knows you, President Susilo. Could you share with us, they talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, and you were part of the panel. Could you share really quick your experience? Because this is about learning from the leaders, learning from the experience that these beautiful panelists have, and that what you guys have accomplished.
Yes, but before answering your question, I would like to say that I am very happy to be here in Riyadh, because we are not only discussing sustainable travel and tourism, but we are also addressing so many global challenges that we are facing together to find doable and achievable solutions. Hopefully, there will be a good thing for our world that now facing so many problems and challenges. Back to your questions. About 10 years ago, 2012, together with 26 permanent persons from over the world, including Minister Patricia and Mr. Pullman, I was tasked by the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon to prepare a kind of paper of recommendation connected to the post-2015 development agenda. And we worked very hard for about a year. It's not easy, but finally we could make it. We could present to UN Secretary General our draft of the post-2015 development agenda, later on become Sustainable Development Goals. The essence of SDGs, I think, is quite good because we are committed to improve the welfare of the people all over the world, combating extreme poverty. So the economy must be continuously growing, growth with equity, of course, growth that is sustainable. So the element of sustainability is at the core of the SDGs. And that was adopted in 2015, the same year of the other milestone of our history, the adoption of Paris Climate Agreement. So if we are facing now so many challenges from the geopolitical rivalries, downturn in global economy, and also so many disasters in many countries because of climate change, then we have to remember, we have to find global solution while also remembering that we have a good concept that we have produced before, Sustainable Development Goals and also Paris Climate Agreement. That's things that I would like to say.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And that became our North Star. And that's what we're aiming, what was wonderful. And you were part of making that history and with Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General, that he mentioned yesterday. Patricia, share a little bit about your contribution and your participation in that and your view.
Well, let me say, and we were just commenting that with Paul, that was really one of the most extraordinary experiences having that group. Paul, at that moment, for example, he was the CEO of Unilever, so having at the table, you know, such a high-level person coming from the private sector, combined with me, I was a foreign minister, and the foreign minister of Colombia was also there, but there were also some grassroots representatives, so it was really just an amazing group. And the conversations under the leadership of President Yudhoyono and Prime Minister Cameron and President Sirleaf Johnson were just amazing. I remember very well one of the discussions, and that was one of the issues where I wanted to put a lot of emphasis, because I had come from the experience of COP16 in 2010 in Mexico. And there was a big discussion. Shall we have a separate goal on climate change or not? So the fact is that climate change is a cross-cutting issue. It is not a separate agenda. Climate change is an agenda that has to do with all different areas of the economy. So in that regard, there was really a lot of discussion in the group. At the end, we opted for keeping the goal number 13, climate change, also in order to make sure that it would not be overseen, but fully conscious of the fact that climate change is really a cross-cutting issue. And if you look at each and every one of them, it is so closely interrelated. It affects poverty, it affects food and nutrition, it affects education, it affects jobs, it affects everything. So this is what I can share of that wonderful experience.
Excellent. Paul, give us your perspective. You were representing the private sector, and you have been a champion of climate and sustainability for so many years, and a role model too.
Well, I think I was the only one really from the private sector running a major company, and that I remember coming into the first meeting and everybody staring at, here is the problem coming in. But it was like drinking from a fire hose, because at the end of the day, what we learned most from is over these 2.5 years, not only becoming great friends, but listening to all parts of society, from women to youth, to people with disabilities, to farmers, and the list goes on. And it really is a roadmap of how we should run the world. You could also call it a scorecard of where we're doing well or where we're not doing well. And obviously the overall objective, irreversibly eradicating poverty and doing that in a more sustainable and equitable way, is by all means possible. And for the first time, these goals became universal. And the meeting in Bali, and I'm not saying that because President Yudhoyono is here, but under his leadership is where we discussed partnership, which became goal number 17. And that was the most important discussion we had, because everybody was in sort of, you do this, I do that, but I only do it if you do it. And we were in this contractual mindset. We spent a few days together and looked at for each of these goals. What are the major things that are needed to get a breakthrough? And we really started to discover that this is a partnership for humanity, a partnership for common good, a partnership where you have to put the interest of the common good ahead of your own, knowing that by doing so, you're better off yourselves as well. And I think that's a big unlock. Now, we ended up with 17 goals, 169 targets, and that's a lot for business. I always joke that if you meet the average CEO, they might remember what business they're in, how much money they earn, and if you're lucky, the name of their wives. So 17 goals, 169 targets is a little bit much. So we actually took these sustainable development goals once they were approved and looked at 4 areas: mobility, energy transition, health and well-being, and food and land use. And in these 4 areas alone, already then, we saw an opportunity to unlock in this decade of $12 trillion and creating 380 million jobs.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, the dialogue became one of opportunity, not one of scarcity or threat or risk avoidance. And I think it changed. We were planning to reach about 1,000 CEOs with it. We ended up well over 2,000. And one of my side hobbies right now is chairing the UN Global Compact for the Secretary General. We have 17,000 companies now. Interestingly, it went up after COVID from 12,000 to 17,000, but all integrating the Sustainable Development Goals. So I come back to this partnership very clearly because what COVID has shown us, I think it has made us realize that you can't have healthy people on an unhealthy planet, but we've also seen that we can't have this unlimited growth on a finite planet. And for the first time, people started to discover that COVID actually is directly related to destruction of biodiversity, that the poor people suffer more, that it is linked to climate change, that it undermines any business to operate in any of these societies when these societies don't function. So it started to click. The interdependence that Patricia talked about of the Sustainable Development Goals, I think came to life at COVID. The other thing that came to life is, this problem is so big that we've created that none of us can solve it alone. And that brings me finally, for my final sentence, to the tourist sector, because, someone very wise once said to solve the problems at the level that these problems are created is lunacy. You really have to move to a different level. And that different level is partnership. So you get here. We've talked in the previous panel about things like climate change or biodiversity destruction, or human rights in the value chain. These are not just for the tourist and travel sector. They're in every industry. Everywhere. We should really be defensive about that. And we struggle to solve those things because no company can do it alone. When I was running Unilever, I couldn't solve the issues of plastics in the oceans, or I couldn't solve the issues of human rights in the value chain myself, even if I wanted to. So these are collective things. And what the industry now needs to do, with a lot of the goodwill, and the center you've created is a great moment to do that, but a lot of goodwill from companies here, because no CEO is stupid. They don't want more unemployment or air pollution or people going to bed hungry. They know they have the issues that they need to address, but we have to form these partnerships and drive it higher. So this industry right now has only 2% of companies signed up to science-based targets. That's not good enough. These companies, many, like in other industries, are talking being less bad. They are in the CSR mode. They're already happy to do better than they did yesterday. But if the world has overshot its planetary boundaries to such an extent, the only thing that counts is restorative, reparative, regenerative. So how do we get this mindset change? At the end of the day, a human transformation that is needed more than anything else.
Absolutely, and you touched on a very important point, which is COVID accelerated the agenda. But there were some countries that before COVID made that a priority. And an interesting example is the case of Costa Rica. And I would like to hear from former President Laura to tell us why sustainability was so important previous to COVID in Costa Rica. Can you share some examples, please?
Of course, and thank you, Gloria, for giving me the opportunity to speak a little bit about my country. And I start saying that for us, for the Costa Rican people, sustainable development is not about doing, it is about being. It is part of our DNA. We can't imagine any development strategy without the sustainable component in it. But it was not always like this. For example, in the late 1980s of the past century, Costa Rica was one of the Latin American nations with the highest levels of deforestation. However, 40 years later, we were able to demonstrate, we were the first tropical nation to demonstrate that it was possible to reverse that deforestation and to implement a very successful reforestation strategy. We also demonstrated that it was possible to produce all the energy we consume 100% from renewable sources, as we are doing now. And also, we are already in the road to achieve in 2050 the goal to become a carbon neutral economy. Some people, something else, because some people mentioned at that time, I remember, because we started with all of these policies before it became a global issue. And some people and some sectors approached to us telling that we were choosing between sustainability or economic growth. And what it was amazing is that at the same time that we were implementing those policies, we were also able to become a middle-income country and also to achieve one of the highest human development level in Latin America. So basically, what I want to say, thank you. What I want to mean is, whenever you put the sustainability and the development variables in the same equation, you will only get a scaling up spiral, a virtuous circle, because all of this ended up in making Costa Rica an example of ecotourism. We have one of the most competitive tourism sectors in the world, and that is because most of the people going to Costa Rica, they want to
experience the sustainability, right?
Experience
the experience,
our way of
right?
Of
Which
doing
is
things.
wonderful, and I agree with you. You guys have done a fantastic job, and now Costa Rica is very, very well positioned as one very sustainable destination. You all are wonderful leaders, right? And our panel is like leading for this global sustainable future. But the reality, and Paul mentioned, we're still having challenges with these partnerships. What do you think is the biggest challenge? Why we are not moving faster? Because here we are, Saudi Arabia is contributing to this global center. We want to accelerate the transition, but the reality is that there's still a lot of challenges. The will is there, the resources are there, the strategy is there. We know exactly what needs to be done, and we have a wonderful coalition. But what is missing? Well, I don't know who wants to share their views. What is missing here? Why we're not moving? Patricia, what's in your view?
Okay. Well, one thing I would say is, and I fully agree with Paul, partnerships, collaboration, working together, an integrated and comprehensive vision is absolutely needed. And for that, I would say that what we have been lacking, and this is what we are seeing, is leadership.
The leadership.
Leadership on the side of governments at different levels, leadership on the side of private sector as well, leadership on the side of civil society. Developing this unity of purpose, coming together to build that partnership and say, what can we do to, that's the only way.
But that leadership also includes collaboration and sitting on the table to have that conversation, right? Because they can be leading in these silos and you don't make it happen. President Susilo, you're going to comment on that.
I just want to add what has been said by Patricia just now. To me, the main challenges that we are facing in tackling climate change problems, again, back to cooperations and partnership. We need to improve our global cooperation and partnerships. What we have now is not enough to go to the net zero emission by 2050. So once again, cooperation. Number two, I think we need to change our mindset to a more forward-looking mindset, and we have to change the game. Blame game is not an option.
It's not an option.
We are witnessing now blame games between the developed and developing countries, between the rich and the poor countries. We have to stop, and we have to substitute with more concrete and effective collaboration to be able to tackle global climate change. Number 3, leadership. I do agree. Leadership at all levels, global, national, local. And we have also to bring all stakeholders, government, private sector, scientists, the society at large, NGOs. If they have the same mindset, then I think it will be good. And I have to say that all stakeholders must be working from the beginning so they can set the target, the strategy, and the implementation of all target that has been determined. So again, cooperation and partnerships, changing the mindset, leaderships, and the last one is everybody must be on board.
Everyone should be included.
Yes.
And especially
to be included.
should be included, because sometimes you have at the country level making some decisions or the state level, but then the communities are not involved in the process. And that's something very important. What do you think, Paul, on that?
No, absolutely. You know, we have the technology. There's no question that this decade, 70% of the issues that we face, we can actually solve it with technology that is available. In fact, if you look by industry sector, if everybody would transform to a more sustainable value chain, it would be 7 to 16% cheaper. In Unilever, we had 300% shareholder return in 10 years. I never had a compromise. You can't do the 100%, but we don't need to do the 100% in the next 10 years. We have, fortunately, still a little bit of time. So it requires, indeed, to work together, because many of the issues that get in the way are incentive systems that are not aligned, which is a very important thing because they drive people's behavior. A financial market that pushes you to the short term doesn't help.
Which is
a reward structure that is only return on financial capital doesn't help if you don't have social, human or environmental capital. So we need to work the incentive systems to drive people's behaviors, and we need to create courageous leaders. But there's something very interesting. 60 million people a year do business education. That's one of the most followed ones. Even if you do engineering or medicine, you want to be your own entrepreneur, you take a business course. But when you talk to people when they go to business school, what do they say? Oh, I want to change the world. That's why I want to be in business, because I have a big influence. When you interview them after they've gone to business school, I want to earn a lot of money and I work for Goldman Sachs. So from wonderful human beings, we create little monsters on steroids. We create the little Milton Friedmans that are not ready to manage the complexer issues that we have in society. And you see that in the leadership. There are very few of them that step up, that are willing to set, or that are willing to take responsibility for their total impact in the world. How many companies really do scope 3 or scope 4 or scope 5 commitments like I talk in my book, Net Positive? Very few. How many companies are really willing to set the targets that we know science demands is needed versus the targets they can get away with? And how many will want to go through the pain to work with others, which sometimes has a little bit of inconvenient truth. But if you don't do this, you don't build up that level of trust, which is ultimately the currency that is missing. And I'm talking it more from the private sector, because I think personally that we're in a moment in the history where governments are blocked, where international multilateral institutions are not designed to deliver anymore, what they should be delivering. So responsible business should fill that void and start to de-risk that political process. But it takes that courage. And unfortunately, courage, which by the way comes from the French word cœur, and starts with the heart, bringing a little bit more humanity back to business, is a little bit difficult to do in our current systems that we've trained the people in.
But Paul, you're raising a very good point, because we are very short-time oriented. Edward Norton said today, the house is on fire, and we're still arguing for some other things, right? But in the private sector, they are measured quarterly in the returns, right? Especially the public companies. What you did in Unilever, this long-term view, was kind of unique, and that's the same thing in the case, for instance, interesting in Costa Rica and some other countries. Patricia and President Calderon, when they were in Mexico, also they had this view. But then what happens? Governments change, and they come with different plans. How do you change that mindset? How, for instance, in Costa Rica, were you able to continue with that long-term view to support ecotourism, to support sustainable tourism, and not the government came and changed everything?
Look, Gloria, I think that all the elements that have been mentioned are very important. But one element that can truly make a difference in any society is the shared vision, a shared values. And that has to do with education. That's the way you can communicate what you are about as a society. When you have the whole nation, or more than one nation, moving in the same direction, that is when real change arrives. So that is, for example, one of the most successful components in Costa Rica. We brought the sustainable issues to the schools. So children, children are the ones who started, telling their parents the importance of recycling, the importance of being conscious about the use of electrical power, how to use water. So every new generation brings even more commitment to the table. So I think that investing in the youngest generation is something really critical if we want to accelerate the progress.
And that's a wonderful point, Laura. I even see that in my house with my son that is so environmental oriented. He's the one that is demanding. We have here some students. Raise your hand who has received education of environment in the school, in the high school. We have some hands up. Very good. From different nationalities and different. That's something that we need to invest, including that as part of the curricula and the agenda and the long-term view. Let me ask a question about now communities. And I would like to hear from you. What is your view? How do we engage with communities? Because yes, we can talk about education, but a lot of these communities, to tell you the truth, and tourism goes there and creates jobs, 1 in 3 jobs, 1 in 3 in the future, 1 in 4 in the past. But sometimes we import everything. You bring like even the marmalade for the hotels or whatever is needed is imported instead of being produced local so that you can reduce the footprint. President, in the case of Indonesia, can you share what's your view in terms of the communities? How do you engage with the communities? Why is that was so important?
Yeah, community is very important to succeed the business and investment in Indonesia. I have to say that community is actually a social capital. When the business, the investment are doing enough thing to the community and involve the community to be part of the business, I think will be bringing good things. For example, tourism industry. When we are doing tourism in a certain tourism site, then we have community. So when the tourism industry can create jobs, can give opportunity to the host community, I think we will support the business and they will part of the progress of the business. So we have to think community is an integral part of the business and we have to do good things for them. That's the essence of the community relations with the investment, in particular in the tourism industry.
Totally agree. Patricia, your experience in UNFCCC, you had the chance to see the entire world and see best practices and see some countries that they were doing better than others. What is your view? How do we accelerate that community engagement? Because you also invited some communities as observers, I believe, right? And you expanded the participation in COP. What's your view? Can you share with us one of the best examples to accelerate that community participation and engagement?
Well, I think inclusion is always a key to make any project really be successful. If you exclude any part of society from an important project, and in this case it is a very important project, that will not happen. That will not be successful. There are, it varies a lot. It's very difficult to say there is this way to do it. But I would say the big lines, it has to do with dialogue, with what the president was saying, giving them a sense of ownership also of the process, of the project. It's not, I'm coming here, I'm making this investment. Yes, I will provide jobs for you, but you will do whatever I tell you. No, it's let us all be proud of what we are going to be building here together. And education, training and education.
It's the same.
Gloria,
Paul, will you agree?
just let me add the role of women at
the
the
women
community
factor.
level. Because usually when you go out there, you find that women are the ones who are really organizing the community, taking care of the natural resources, the water sources, etc. So trying to empowerment those women leaderships at the community level is something
it's crucial, right? And I agree with you, because if you invest in women, they say you invest in families, and that helps, of course, communities. Paul, anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, we started this discussion with the Sustainable Development Goals. It's not leaving anybody behind. So the proof of what we are doing is not what we're talking here, is if the people out there are better. Where companies go wrong is that they get myopically focused on the shareholder when they should be really focused on the people that they serve. So the question we ask ourselves in our book is, how do you profit from solving the world's problems, not creating them? And it can only happen if you see local communities benefit. When I was with President Yudhoyono, and Unilever is a very big company in Indonesia, when we were sitting there, my question, the thing was not telling him what we were going to do, asking him what he needs. When we wanted to solve the issues of deforestation, which are related to livelihoods of poor people that can barely make a living, they do have to do the slash and burn to even survive. We say, how can we create sustainable value chains? Which we did in Sumatra. How can we not just take the money out of the country, but invest for added value products, so we bring technologies there? So you start with people. But that, most of the companies have forgotten that. I've been in many board discussions or other things that it seems that the only reason for being is the shareholder. And it just doesn't work. That's why we drive these companies into the ground, honestly.
Absolutely.
So it is about communities.
Community engagement. This country, Saudi Arabia, 2/3 of the population is 35 years or less. Youth is a very important stakeholder or component. You saw Her Highness, and you see a lot of leaders in this country that they are driving this transformation. They're in the driving seat and making the changes in a speed that I have never seen in my life, right? And that's amazing, the transformation. For the youth that is joining us here, and that's my last question, and the last 1 more minute and extra time, as you are the leaders and you have so much experience, could you make in the simple words, 2-3 words or more, for one recommendation? What's your recommendation to the youth here today to help us to lead this global sustainable future? Who would like to start? Really quick. What's your recommendation to the youth here from your experience? What do you tell them?
The youth is 50% of the world population is under 30 years old. So and they're going to be 100% tomorrow.
But what do you recommend them? Very specific.
So I'm a very simple one. Is if first of all, never give up, frustrating as it may be to drive change, because the road of change is not easy. Otherwise, someone would have done it already.
Never give up.
But the second thing is, if you are 50% of the world population right now, you're more creative, you're more innovative, you're more purpose-driven, you think future generation more than we do, you embrace partnership, you have to demand a seat at the table. If not, demand the table. It is time that we get the youth in everything
Do
we
you
do.
guys hear that? Demand a seat on the table. That's wonderful. Patricia, what do you recommend this youth, and the youth watching us, by the way, because yesterday we had like 6 million live streams. What do you recommend them?
Well, I would say very, very shortly, building on what Paul has rightly said, choose the right people in the elections of your countries.
Make sure that you guys vote and choose the best. Excellent. Laura?
I would say that you, in addition also to what they already said, always try to base your decisions on facts, on science. We are going through very, very difficult times where some people, through social media, are trying to question if there is a true or not. So please, promise us that you will continue basing your decisions on what you have learned in the educational system, and of course, using science for taking those
decision making. Wonderful, excellent. Using science and fact-based. President, the last word from you. What is the recommendation?
My hope and recommendation to the youth, number one, understand our challenge, global and national. and then think about the solution to be taken and participate in this process. The government must give opportunity to the youth to be part of the progress and the solution. That's my recommendation.
Thank you, thank you. With that, I would like to thank the panel. Thank you very much. What a wonderful conversation. I wish we have more time, but they will be engaged with us in STGC and this amazing project. Thank you for the time. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, what an incredible panel. Please join me in thanking them once again, and Her Excellency Gloria Guevara for moderating such a fantastic panel there. Thank you, all of you, so much. Wow. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see from behind me, technology is the theme of the next session. And of course, technology has really become absolutely key in how we do almost everything, how we connect, how we engage in the world. It's absolutely everywhere. How we position ourselves, how we work, my goodness, especially during the pandemic. And of course, content plays such an important role in enabling us to drive forward strategic agendas. So, ladies and gentlemen, in a few seconds, in a few minutes, Soo-man Lee will be speaking in Korean. And there will be, of course, simultaneous translation. So do grab a headset wherever you are. Just once again, do grab a headset once again because we'll be needing translation. English is on channel 1. And Arabic is on channel 2. All right, without further ado, it gives me great pleasure now to introduce to the stage Mr. Soo-man Lee, founder of SM Entertainment, who is a tech pioneer, content creator, and also the man who brought K-pop to the world. The stage is yours.
나도. Are you gonna move it? Okay. 안녕하세요. 한국에서 왔습니다. SM 엔터테인먼트의 총괄 프로듀서 이수만입니다. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much. 사우디아라비아 리야드에서 개최되는 World Travel and Tourism Council 글로벌 서밋에 초대해 주셔서 감사드리고 또 WTTC의 줄리아 심슨 CEO 및
Good evening. I am Soo-man Lee, the chief producer of
지금은 모두가 지구상의 기후 위기를 극복하고
held here in Riyadh,
가능성을
Saudi Arabia.
시험해야
I'm
하는
very
탄소
pleased to be
중립의
here today
시대입니다.
with Julia Simpson,
지속
CEO
가능한
of
미래는
WTTC
인류
and distinguished
공동의
guests. How we live
아젠다입니다.
in the era of carbon
우리 모두
neutrality,
특히
and
기성세대가
where everyone wants to create a
앞장서서
sustainable world
국제사회의 최대 공동
in a
목표인
responsible manner to the
유엔의
global
글로벌
climate
고als,
crisis. A sustainable
지속
future is
가능한
a common
발전
agenda for
목표를
all humanity.
일상의 문화로
It is time for us
정착시켜야
all,
하고
the older generation
또
in particular, to take the lead to
서스테이너빌리티를
make the
위한
United
넷제로, 즉
Nations
탄소
SDGs
배출 제로
a goal
로드맵에
for us
우리가 모두
to be taken root
동참해야 할
as a
때입니다.
culture of our daily lives.
앞으로는 문화와
Now
첨단
it is the
기술이
time for
융합돼서
us to join efforts and
시간과
collaborate for a
연료를
global net zero
낭비하는
roadmap
여행이
for
사라지고
Earth's sustainability.
사람들은 더더욱
With the convergence of
문화와
culture and advanced
진정성을
technology,
찾는 궁극의
time and fuel
여행을
consumption
추구할
travel
것입니다.
will soon disappear,
저는
and soon
세계가
people will pursue
문화로
travels to
연결된
find culture and diversity.
엔터테인먼트 세상을 만들고자 하는
I have a vision
비전으로
of creating entertainment where the world's connected with
아티스트를
culture and with a
프로듀싱하며
vision producing music.
컬처 테크놀로지를
K-pop
통해서
and artists,
프로스모와
and also
크리에이터들에 의해
utilizing culture
창조되는
technology.
메타버스를
I am
구축하고
building
있습니다.
A metaverse created
지금은
to
프로스모가 자발적으로
pro-consumers and creators.
콘텐츠를
Now
스스로
is the best
재창조하고
day for the metaverse
확산시키는
era.
프로스모와 메타버스 정점의 시대이며 우리는 이미
We are living in a world of the
메타버스
metaverse.
세상에 살고 있는 것입니다. 우리가 24시간 로그인되어 있는
Think of the social media outlets and the virtual reality.
So what did you say? Is there anyone? So translation is number one channel. So do you want me to do that? So
We are
she wants me to
logged
say that, so
in
number one
24/7
channel is on
in the
translation
virtual
channel.
metaverse.
Okay? So 우리가 24시간 로그인되어 있는 SNS, the augmented reality, virtual
As
reality를
I said,
생각해
we
보시기
are
바랍니다.
always online, and we have to
Virtual
also
metaverse에
think about the metaverse.
전 세계의
We have
아이디어가
to
모이고
think
있습니다.
That
다양한 콘텐츠와
ideas
제품,
are gathered from
또
all around the
새로운
world.
공간을
We have new
시뮬레이션하면서
product and new content
즉
that is diverse in its nature.
할 수 있습니다.
There are many things that entail trial and error, and also is very costly.
메타버스에서는 끝없이
Trial
수정하고
and error
또 무한하게
is
재창조할 수 있습니다.
is
그리고
not present
쓰레기
in the
제로, 또
metaverse
탄소 제로입니다.
because there's always amendment
메타버스와 뉴
and there's no
테크놀로지가
waste and no
컨텐츠와
pollution,
문화,
no carbon
궁극적으로
emissions.
여행과
The metaverse
관광
will
산업을
change the culture.
어떻게 바꿀
It will
것인가?
also change
이것은
the
우리가
scene
살고
of
싶은
travel and tourism. This
미래
will
도시에 대한
reflect on our future.
논의이기도 합니다. 첨단 기술을 통해 사회적 비용과
And
탄소
even when we
배출을
discuss
줄이는
the cities of the
지속
future,
가능한
we have to
도시의 모델을 만들어야
come with
하고
a model of a city that
사우디아라비아에서도
will
이미
have zero
시작됐습니다.
emissions.
세계 최대 규모의 친환경 미래
And
도시
this is a movement
건설
that
프로젝트인
the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has
네옴시티의
started.
원대한 비전과 규모
And we see
도시
that the city of
전체를
today
100%
is one of the
친환경
biggest
에너지로 운영하는
projects
계획에
in the
전
world,
세계가 놀라고 지금 주목하고 있습니다.
the NEOM city.
한국의 기업도 다수 참여하는 네옴시티를 통해서
The project of NEOM
세계적인
City
미래의 관광
has many
도시국이
Korean
될
companies
사우디아라비아의
participating
미래가
in order to create a
기대됩니다.
future city that is
저는
world class.
미래 도시 건설은
The future of Saudi Arabia
인공지능,
is very bright.
또 메타버스
And the
그리고
future will also revolve
드론을
around
중심으로 펼쳐질 것이라고
artificial
생각합니다.
intelligence and the
최근
metaverse, as well as
사우디아라비아, 두바이,
drones
또
and
몽골
other
정부 리더들을
machine
만나서
technology. I met
미래 문화 도시에 대한
many
비전 그리고
many
제가
professors
얘기하는
from different parts of the
생활문화
world in order
생태계에
to
대한
discuss
아이디어를
the
제안했습니다.
ecosystem for the
저는 키디아 프로젝트의
future
어드바이저로
of culture in the
초빙되었고 사우디아라비아 투자부가
We
K-팝의
also
시조인
signed
SM
an MOU
엔터테인먼트와 MOU를 맺고
with the Saudi
또
Arabian
저는
Ministry of
사우디팝,
Investment,
즉 S팝 프로듀싱과 미래의 문화산업
I have
프로젝트를
decided
추진하기로 했습니다.
to present or
디리아 게이트
promote
개발청의
the Saudi
초청으로
pop.
디리아 유적지의 신도시 프로젝트에
And also, I was invited
조언을
to
드리기도
Diriyah
했습니다.
Gate Development Authority. I
유네스코
also
등재
gave
유적지인
my
디리아의
advice
역사
on the new city
박물관을
project
버추얼과
at Heritage
그리고
Sites in Diriyah
현실을
by
서로
building a history
미러링해서
museum in
구축해
Diriyah,
나가는
a UNESCO
디리아
listed
메타버스
heritage site,
뮤지엄
in a
프로젝트를
virtual
제안했습니다.
metaverse, making use of
현실의
ideas
도시
of
디리아를
prosumers
미러링해서
around the world
버추얼
for museum
메타버스에
construction
구현해야 하고
and exhibitions.
전 세계 프로스모들이 아이디어를 모아서
This
그
museum
버추얼 박물관을
mirrors
먼저
both creating a virtual
시뮬레이션으로
and a physical
만들어보게 하고
metaverse amid a
이것을
worldwide
다시
interest and
미러링하여
participation.
현실 세계인
In the future,
피지컬
all cities
메타버스에
will be mirrored and
구현하는
exist as a virtual metaverse city.
전 세계의 관심과 참여 속에서
Imagine a world
디리아는
where the future
세계
is drawn
최초로
trials
버추얼과
are allowed
피지컬 메타버스로 창조된
and where the future can be designed
보유하는 그런
in a mirror
도시가 될
virtual city.
것입니다. 미래에는 모든 도시가 전 세계의 모든
We
도시가
need to
미러링되어
exert all our
버추얼
efforts to make
메타버스의
a
도시로
better city
존재하게
for
될
the future
것입니다. 미러링된
and transform
버추얼
all
도시에서
cities into
미래를
metaverse cities,
그리고 활동해 보면서 실제로
because
새로운
all
미래를
ideas need to be
설계하는 세상.
realized in the
전
actual
세계
world. This will
프로스모들의
create a new
아이디어와
future
시뮬레이션을 통해서 더 나은 도시를
with
구축해
the
나가는
ideas
버추얼
of
메타버스.
prosumers.
그리고 버추얼에서 시뮬레이션된
And this will
아이디어를
create the city of
현실의
the
피지컬
metaverse.
메타버스에 구현하는
These
도시가
ideas will
되도록
be reflected
준비해야 할 것입니다.
on the ground.
네옴시티의 The
This is
Line
what we need to
같은
prepare for.
도시도 버추얼 메타버스에서
As for
시뮬레이션하고
the line in
현실인
Neom
피지컬
City,
메타버스에서
should also
구현되어야 할
have this
것입니다.
reflective
미래의 도시는
experience.
버추얼
Future
메타버스에서
cities,
미러링되어서 전
they
세계의
are
아이디어가 참여하게 하고 또
mirrored
창조력을 발휘하게 하고
in real
시뮬레이션하게
life.
해서
And this is
피지컬
achieved by
메타버스인
using innovation
현실에서
and the mirroring
구현하게
technology.
해야 할 것입니다.
We also need to
미래의
make sure
도시는
that this
그
is
버추얼
reflected
메타버스에서
in the metaverse.
미러링되어서 전 세계의
in the
아이디어가
future.
참여하게 되는 전 세계의 프로스모가 참여하게 하고
All
창조력을
people
발휘하게
should
하고
be part of
시뮬레이션하게 해서
and participate in creating ideas and in innovation so that we would achieve the real metaverse.
환경 친화적이고 또 거기에 문화가
Only then we
넘치게
can
될
build
것입니다.
sustainable future
미래의
cities
도시는
and create this
지구의
culture
서스테이너빌리티를
where such
실현하고
cities would thrive.
사막화를
So efforts should be exerted
막는 노력이
in order to
있어야 합니다.
sustain land and
아이들과
prevent
같이 가족과 함께
desertation.
가는 여행의 도시. 이제 나무 한
Families
그루를 심는
should
여행.
go with
더 나은 지구 환경을
with one
만드는
another to
여행에 대해
build
논의해야 합니다.
to create a better ecosystem by
아이들이
planting
보고
trees.
느끼고
This city,
배우고 또 실천할 수 있는
which this city would become
엔터테인먼트와
a place
에듀케이션이
that is
함께
vital,
있는
where
관광 도시가 되면
entertainment and
좋겠습니다.
education will work hand in
탄소
hand.
중립과
These cities will also
사막화를 막는
become
방법
touristic cities
매우
and will
중요한
also prevent desertation
나무 심기를 통해
and
더 나은 지구를
carbon
만들어갈 수
emissions.
있도록
through planting trees
사우디아라비아를
we will
포함하여
do better.
사막이 있는 지역에
This
나무를
movement that
심는
has started
캠페인을
in
누구나
Saudi Arabia,
즐겁고 기쁘게 또
which is
참여할 수
planting
있게
trees
해보고 싶습니다.
in the desert
저는
area.
몽골리아
It's a
정부의
campaign
초청으로
that should be commended.
미래의 생활문화 생태계에 대한
It
아이디어를
has
제언하고
presented ideas
몽골
and
내
recommendations for
스마트
for
엔터테인먼트 시티 조성 관련
the live
MOU를
culture
맺었습니다.
in the future,
먼저
creating
몽골의 사막화를 막고
an
기후
a
위기
smart
해결을 돕기 위해
entertainment
나무를 심는
city in Mongolia.
K-pop 페스티벌을 열고자 합니다.
This is why we decided to launch the campaign where
전
K-pop
세계가
fans
직면한
around the world will be
기후변화
participate in
대응에
planting trees.
기여하고 국토의
And
76.9%가
the
사막화되고
UN
있는
General Assembly
몽골의 미래를 위해
in 2021,
2030년까지
Mongolia's president
10억
announced
그루
that the world
나무 심기
should
캠페인을
implement a campaign
실시하겠다고
where 1
선언했습니다.
billion trees should be
사우디아라비아도
planted
2050년까지
by 2030 in order to
Thank you very
contribute
much.
and respond to the climate change.
사우디아라비아도 2050년까지 탄소
Also,
배출
the
제로의
Kingdom of Saudi
달성을
Arabia
선언했습니다.
will also
중동
reach
그린
carbon
이니셔티브 회담을 통해
neutrality
중동 지역에
through its
나무 500억
Middle
그루를
East
심어 2억
Green Initiative
헥타르의
talks that has been
녹지를
launched by
복원할
His
계획을
Highness the
밝혔습니다.
Crown Prince, where Saudi Arabia announced the plant of 2
관광의 해를
million
맞는
hectares of green
몽골과
space
또
by planting
중동에서도
50 billion
나무를
trees in the Middle
심고
East.
지구를 살리는 뮤직 페스티벌과
There's also
캠페인이
the
같이
music festival
가동되기를 바랍니다.
and another
몽골과
tree planting campaign
사우디아라비아가
in order to save
K-팝과
the planet. In 2023, in Mongolia and Middle East, planting trees and saving the Earth music festival and the campaigns will take place if Mongolia and Saudi Arabia work together. K-pop fans and young people from all around the world will participate and visit by starting this project to make our planet greener in places where desertification has taken place. We will engage citizens from all over the world, and it will be a world movement, and this is what I hope for. In the deserts and those areas that are suffering from drought, projects such as the planting tree projects will be. This also will create a movement and a culture for the whole world. This new model, music will change the world, and the young generations will change the world. This is how future cities are built. This will be a model for global cities. The history of mankind has been a history of war between nations, ideologies, and greed. And the most acute confrontation in this world right now is the generation gap. The gap in values and ideas between the older generation and the younger generation is extremely wide. If the world generation had a history of fighting in pursuit of profit on the earth, the young generation share the urgency to save the earth and preserve and revive it. This is why the two generations should reduce the gap between them and should work hand in hand in order to open their eyes and see that this Mother Earth should be saved. This should be achieved by the younger generation being persistent and persuading the older generation that this is the legacy that we will be leaving it for the younger generations. They should be the ones encouraging their families to go on a tree planting trip. And we are in desperate times, and we need a carbon-free environment. Drones can fly to long distances, which is called the vertical. And this should be put on borders between countries, on countries' borders. This is, in my opinion, the city of the future should be the greatest creation of mankind. It is our final moment to build the city of the future and humanity, not AI, but creating the future cities with our creativity. I hope that we can build a final city, future city, by using the human intelligence, not the artificial intelligence. I hope that this will become a reality by using the culture of technology. I imagine an amazing city, a smart entertainment city where everyone would live within the virtual metaverse and the physical metaverse. They both are two worlds coexisting to create a sustainable future tourism where people will participate as families in planting trees and creating the desired future city that everyone wants to live in. This would also be your role. We need your help in this. I want a new project, new CT projects to create a model of this new future city, a future life and culture ecosystem with humanity and sustainability. Based on SM's humanity slogan, be humble, be kind, and be the love, I believe that we will be able to create it with our fans all around the world and global citizens and you. I thank you for listening.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Lee, for that powerful keynote speech. And I was listening in the translation. Thank you so much. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our wonderful speaker there. And also for the translator. It really is technology here. Thank you so much. All right, we continue. We are getting now, sadly, to the end of our event. And of course, we're going to be discussing now destinations and companies are around the world. They are doing incredible work, as we have seen over the past 2 days, and really driving forward sustainability, the agenda of sustainability away from the energy usage to wildlife and plastics management to nature preservation. So much is happening, and this, of course, should be recognized. And for that, I would like to call to the stage now Her Excellency Gloria Guevara. Please join me here on the stage.
Stay here? Thank you. Yes. As we heard in previous panels, we need to take action. We need to celebrate the success of our sector, share best practices, learn from each other, and move faster forward together. In this context, we are delighted today to announce that we will be launching the Global Sustainability Awards next year across 10 different categories. The awards that we plan to announce today, they're going to be showcasing different areas. And we would like to recognize companies, SMEs, destinations, or different stakeholders. We will be putting together a panel of experts, judges, to help us in the following categories. As we say before, the SDGC, the Global Center, is concentrated in climate, environment or nature, and communities. So we will have 3 for each one of those, and we will have some beautiful experts that are going to be sharing with us the details, and some champions that they are going to help us to go through the details. But finally, before I introduce them, one of those categories is going to be also for an individual who has been a champion, truly champion on sustainable and climate-friendly travel. In January of next year, we will share all the details on the application process. And as I said before, we are delighted to have 3 icons to help us to announce these awards today. So let me start introducing the first one, and she will go over what we're going to be announcing. And then at the end, we'll have the 3 of them and some other people, so a quick photo. So without further ado, I would like to announce and ask Adriana Lima to come to the front. Please give her an applause.
Good evening, everyone. Again, it's a pleasure for me to be part of the World Travel and Tourism Council. It's the 22nd, and it's wonderful that I have opportunity with them to be here in Saudi. Where is Gloria?
Right here.
And sorry. Okay, I might be nervous. Now going back to what is important. The climate crisis is one of the defining crises of our times and is happening faster than we feared. We must act now and act faster. If we don't slow global emissions, temperatures could rise to above 3 degrees Celsius by the year 2100, causing further irreversible damage to our ecosystems. In that context, I'm happy to be here to announce the creation of the 3 climate awards. The first is the best solutions to reduce food waste. Over 30% of food is lost or wasted globally each year. Research finds that investing to reduce food waste has a potential return of $7 for every $1 spent. This award will recognize an organization or individual that has implemented solutions to meaningfully reduce food waste. The second award focuses on the best solutions to make buildings greener. Buildings and construction today account for 37% of energy-related CO2 emissions. Implementing renewable sources and reducing energy consumed in heating and cooling are important levels for reducing emissions. This award will recognize an organization or individual that has found innovative solutions to advance this issue. The third and final award being created in the climate category is Best Solutions to Implement Sustainable Energy. The world is forecast to use 15% more energy in the year 2050 than it does today. Destinations and companies are becoming more efficient, but more needs to be done to accelerate the move to sustainable energy solutions. This award will recognize an organization or individual that has implemented innovative solutions that advance sustainable energy. Gloria.
Thank you. Come here this way. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Please join us. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that, Adriana Lima. Thank you.
Adriana, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a round of applause. Adriana, thank you very much indeed. All right, we continue. Next, I'd like to call to the stage Elle Macpherson. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Elle Macpherson to the stage for her remarks.
Just checking, is my mic working? Yeah. It's nice to see all your smiling faces here today. I hope you found these days inspiring and enlightening, and you have a renewed sense of purpose in whatever it is that you are longing to achieve while you're here in your life and also in your networking. I'm Australian, and I am very proudly Australian, and the natural environment has always been of primary meaning and importance in my life. Recent times have highlighted vital issues that stand to compromise our enjoyment and the gifts offered by our planet. So we seek to encourage effective action to correct and repair the cumulative loss of our natural resources and species, along with the ecosystems and biodiversity that humanity is reliant upon for survival. To protect our planet and our own existence, we are now being rallied as planetary custodians to rebuild our relationship with nature, the elements, with nature and the elements, rather than ransacking them. In this cause, I'm delighted to announce the creation of these 3 nature awards. The first is the best solution to achieve circularity. The circular economy is about achieving a self-sustaining ecosystem. So that means materials, components, products are considered nutrients that should be used for as long as possible, and then fed back into the cycle for renewal or for fuel for next steps. Circular business practices could unlock up to $4.5 trillion of lost economic growth by 2030. This award will recognize an organization that has found innovative solutions to advance the circular economy. The second award focuses on the best solution to revitalize our oceans. And this is very important for me, Australian being one of the biggest islands. We are surrounded by oceans. The oceans have taken up more than 90% of the excess heat in climate systems. And the rate of ocean warming has more than doubled since 1993. With 80% of all tourism taking place in coastal areas, travel and tourism can play an important role in preserving and regenerating our oceans. So this award will recognize an organization or body that is advancing solutions to revitalize our oceans. The third and final award of the nature category is the best solutions to preserve water. We know that water is the most abundant element on Earth. The amount of water on our planet remains the same as it always was, and for but only a few percent is available or suitable for human consumption. Yet everything relies on water to exist. So 75 to 90% of our body is water. Water is unique, and it defies scientific comprehension in that it is the only element that exists in so many forms. So there's solids, liquids, and gas, and we've recently just found it's been discovered as a gel within our cell structure of our bodies. So whilst it is soft and malleable, it is able to wear down and overcome even the hardest elements. Water can defy gravity as it rises to the great heights through the trunks of hardwood trees, and it can exert extraordinary pressure to move the heaviest of substances or to empower a sprouting seed to break through the asphalt in its determination to find light and warmth. Our challenge is not just to save water, but to preserve its function in nature while ensuring its availability to all living things to continue to exist and thrive. So this award will recognize an organizational body that has implemented solutions to preserve water. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Elmer President, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, now to help us announce the community awards, please join me in welcoming Valeria Mazza to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Valeria Mazza. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thank you, Gloria and Wttc for this invitation to let us be here, this amazing place. And first I want to congratulate the Saudi football team and the football fans for the great job. I'm here with the Argentinian flag. I came all the way from Argentina, especially for being here. Today, we both team plays again, and good luck, and we hope we'll see you in the next step. Bueno, back to tourism and travel. Our world is a world of diverse people and rich traditions. Travel brings us to far corners of the globe, making it an incredible opportunity to meet people from different backgrounds and learn about their ways of life. We must support, engage, empower, and enrich local communities through travel and tourism. The highlight success stories and incentivize more change. I am happy to announce the creation of the 3 awards focusing on the people and community in destination. The first award is the best solution to engage communities. To balance the need of destination and communities, private and private community partnerships are key. This award would recognize an organization, a destination, or a body that has supported an engagement of local community to make sure that destinations are not just great places to visit, but great places to live. The second award is the best solution to transform communities. Before COVID, travel and tourism employ more than 330 million people around the globe, or 1 in 10 people on the planet. In the next 10 years, travel and tourism is expected to create 126 million new jobs. Travel and tourism provide opportunities for youth, women, and rural communities through the development of skill, training, and education. This award will recognize an organization or body that has meaningfully transformed a local community. The third and the final award in the community category is the Enhanced Local Sourcing. 30% of food is wasted, and local sourcing can help. Food sourcing currently account for 11% of the travel and tourism sector total emission. By focusing on sustainable sourcing practices in tourism, we can reduce the environmental impact of tourism activities and at the same time provide an enrichment experience for travelers. This award will recognize an organization body that has provided solutions to enhance their ability to source locally. Thank you very much. And Gloria, it's your turn now. There's more announced to say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Valeria. Thank you. The last one is the Champions for Sustainable Travel. That's the individual award. As we know, that travel enables to discover planet, nature, wonders, and connects us with cultures around the world, right? It has the power to change places and to transform lives of people who live in destinations, both urban and rural. But the key is to ensure the impact of travel and tourism is positive and will last for generations to come. This award will recognize an individual who is a global advocate for sustainable travel. And we cannot wait to kick off this process, launch these awards, and showcase, of course, the first generation of winners in 2023. So with that, I would like to thank you, and I would like to ask the ladies here to come to the front. Princess Haifa, if you want to join me, and Laura Chinchilla as well for the photo, please, because we're making history today. These awards are going to help us to promote this very important initiative of our center.
Wow, we come to the end there. Thank you to Adriana Lima, Elle Macpherson, Valeria Mazza, Her Excellency Gloria Guevara, and also Her Highness Princess Haifa and Her Excellency Laura Chinchilla there for all coming on stage there and really bringing to a close. It has been an amazing, hasn't it, 2 days, and we now really come to the end of these fantastic 2 days. It saddens me to say that I'm sure you're all feeling the same way. Thank you so much. You have all been such an amazing audience, and also all the people that have been watching us on that virtual platform. Wow, it is fantastic. But now, before we close, we have one more person two more people that I would like to invite to the stage, and that is Anita and Chantel from Bicester Village. Please make your way to the stage. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Youth in Action, come back. we have an exciting opportunity to talk to you about. Hello, everyone, and my name is Chantal Koueri, and I am the Chief Culture Officer of the Bister Collection. أهلا وسهلا، نحن كتير مبسوطين نكون معكم اليوم.
Hi everyone, I'm Anita Bonomi, Strategic Projects Manager, and we're very excited and privileged and honored to be on this stage today to launch the Unlock Her Future Prize 2023 Middle East and North Africa edition.
All right, before we dive into the detail, let me tell you who we are. We are the Bister Collection. We are the creator and developer of the best shopping destinations in the world. We welcome 45 million guests to our villages. We have 11 villages across Europe, China, and soon the US. Experience is everything to us. It reflects in the sense of place that we create. It reflects in the retail offering that we have. It also reflects in our hospitality. We call it unreasonable hospitality, going beyond the extraordinary, and finally in the storytelling and the emotions that we bring to our guests. Our mission is to make the lives of others better. Our brands, our guests, our communities, and our people. And core to who we are is our culture of giving back. In 2019, we launched our Do Good program with one vision in mind: to unlock the future of women and girls wherever they are born. Championing women has been core to who we are. We have 66% of our employees are women, 52% are in managerial position, and we have 50% representation in board. Our Do Good program, thank you. Our Do Good program has 3 pillars. One is the partnership we do. We drive impact with incredible organizations who work tirelessly to unlock future of women and girls. 2, advocacy. And 3 is our approach to bring to the world innovative and creative programs to unlock the future.
And we're always looking at challenges, what are the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and we want to bring today your attention to a really big challenge, which is that 130 million girls in the world don't have access to education. Now that's setting them back to opportunities that are even unfathomable. And if we look at a research paper from Boston Consulting Group, if men and women participated equally as entrepreneurs, global GDP could rise by 6%. And we're talking about $5 trillion US. So what's holding us back? We at the Bister Collection really want to empower women, empower innovation, and empower ideas across the globe. And that's what's leading us today to launch the Unlock Her Future Prize.
So let us tell you about what this prize is about. It's an annual global program that 1 will identify women, 2 will empower these women that are social entrepreneurs that want to drive impact. Every year, there will be 1 edition in a different part of the world. And we are proud, honored, and delighted to launch the first edition in the MENA region. And thank you, Your Royal Highness Gloria, for giving us the stage to do this. So what are we going to do? Every year, we're going to identify and empower 3 extraordinary women who are social entrepreneurs, and we are going to provide them with financial, human capital, and education to really be able, 1, to launch their startup, and 2, to scale it. So, and we are looking, any woman from the MENA region is going to be able to apply for this prize. First-time founders of any age, the only important matter is that their innovative business idea need to be delivering positive and sustainable impact as defined by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. It could be for-profit, not-for-profit, a social enterprise. Any industry, be it retail, fashion, tech, tourism, well-being, etc.
And so the prize is going to be open for early stage startups that could be up to 3 years, or also ideation stage. So even if you have that idea, you find that problem in your societies and your communities, and you really want to innovate, or you want to maybe consider yourself an entrepreneur, we're going to give you those tools in our application form to think about how you can be driving that impact. Now, our program is differentiated in different ways. We're going to assemble a panel of judges, successful women from the region. We want to be championing the Middle Eastern women that are already driving an impact and that have already fought to get to where they are. We're going to have a panel of CEOs, investors, and founders who will be giving meaningful feedback to those applications. And we're excited to partner with NYU Abu Dhabi as our academic partner, and with Ashoka Arab World. Bill Drayton was the founder, and he coined the term social entrepreneurship. So we're really excited to have these two big organizations, globally recognized, on board with us. What's next? Our application form will open next Monday, December 5th. You're going to have 2 months, January and December, to submit your application. In March, we hope to welcome the 8 finalists to Bicester Village in the UK to pitch in person to our panel of judges. And that's when the work gets started. The funds will get deployed, the academic partnership starts, and the impact will start to become true.
Empowering women means empowering communities. I think we've heard it here. As an Arab woman, being able to launch this here in the MENA region and really to support other women to flourish and to make a difference to their communities is really what is the most important thing. So what can you do to help us? One thing, spread the word. We want to reach as many women as possible. And your help is going to be essential. The hashtag is Unlock Her Future. So anything you can do to help us identify the role models of the future and that are going to inspire the next generation is our only ask. Remember, empowering women, empowering ideas, empowering innovation across the globe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anita and Chantal. They're from Bicester Village in the UK, and absolutely empowering women. Women hold up half of the sky. Wow, and on that note, we do come to a close. We come to an end, ladies and gentlemen, but I don't want to call it an end. As they say, I love this word in Arabic, ilalika, see you later. We close from Saudi, but it really isn't goodbye. It is see you later. I think I speak on behalf of everybody. It really has been a fantastic 2 days here. The energy in this room, the energy last night over the past 2 days has been electric, contagious. I definitely will be back. And before I go, I'd just like to thank everybody for being such a fantastic audience. It has been my pleasure to be the MC with you over these past 2 days. Thank you so much, Her Excellency Gloria Guevara, for inviting me to be your MC. I have loved every moment, all of it. And Enrique, that was the best part as well. Really, I was caught running to the front, of course, when he said bailamos. And also, thank you so much, Your Highness Princess Haifa. Thank you so much for your warm hospitality, and also to the Ministry of Tourism here and everybody else that has been here. Thank you to our viewers online and everybody. It is ilalika. See you later from Riyadh, from Mamlakata Al Arabiya Saudiya. It is see you later. It is not goodbye. We will be back here. Thank you very much indeed. Shukran jazilan. We close. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Ilalika.